All right. This is Patrick Dow with Touchdown Alabama Magazine, and just as we thought that the offseason was going into the slow period, whether we're going to be waiting for SEC Media Days, I'm planning my vacation. I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to the beach. Wednesday happened, and it was filled with Nick Saban videos, Deion Sanders tweets, Jimbo Fisher's insane press conference, and it was easily the strangest and craziest day that I think I've had to cover here in my 3 years with Touchdown Alabama. So, but with that being said, I think that I have some thoughts on the matter, especially following Jimbo Fisher's press conference. So, to give the proper context and the due diligence to all of this, I'm going to start just recapping of where this started and how we got all the way to yesterday, to Jimbo's press conference, to Nick Saban's future apology, and basically where I stand on the matter. So, on Wednesday, Nick Saban spoke at an event in Birmingham Wednesday evening where several high-profile boosters were in attendance. This wasn't a huge media event, so Nick Saban felt like he could open up a little bit about some of the issues that he has with name, image, and likeness, which was brought up at the very end of the event. And when he was giving his answer, Nick used Texas A&M and Jackson State as examples of how he doesn't like the current model of name, image, and likeness and collectives throughout college football. And so we sleep on those comments. The video goes viral because whenever you name teams like that, all the alerts ping off for everyone else. All the media outlets picked it up and it became a big story. Deion Sanders had some tweets about it saying how he was going to address Nick Saban's lies. And then Jimbo Fisher calls an impromptu emergency press conference at 10 a.m. the next day where he completely went scorched earth on Nick Saban. Just 10 minutes of just airing it all out. So, I'm sorry. This is some crazy stuff. This is the SEC. But my first point here, going back to what Nick Saban had to say. I think that Nick's comments should have happened privately, because whenever you name these programs like this, I don't think it's ever really worth it. And what I think, just as I thought would happen, they got ripped out of context, I believe, and just completely contorted into something that it's not. This wasn't a big event. Like I said, the media this wasn't something that was supposed to be highly covered. So I understand that he felt like he could just speak openly to the boosters, because what he was really trying to do is say, hey, we got to, at Alabama, this is what everyone else is doing with name, image, and likeness, essentially offering all these deals to entice them to come here, which I'm not even sure is completely true, because there's not a whole lot reported on it. There's not a whole lot of concrete reporting based on it, but, Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher recruit some of the same guys, so he might have some inside information. I don't know, but I don't think he should have named specific programs on the matter. With that being said, Jimbo Fisher's response was just insanely out of line, and I think he came off as extremely misinformed. Because and here's a quote from Jimbo Fisher's press conference. This is what he was responding to Nick Saban about, and I'm gonna read two sentences from it, because I think the whole thing was pretty repetitive throughout the whole 10 minutes. Jimbo goes, quote, "You're taking shots at 17-year-old kids and their families that they broke state laws, that they're all money. We bought every player on this group. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong." That isn't even remotely what Nick Saban was talking about, because here is the full Nick Saban quote where he brought up Texas A&M on Wednesday. Nick Saban, quote, "I know the consequence is going to be difficult for the people who are spending tons of money. You've read about them. You know who they are. We were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. We didn't buy one player. But I don't know if we're gonna be able to sustain that in the future, because more and more people are doing it." So after reading that quote, you guys tell me, where did Nick Saban say that Jimbo Fisher cheated and that he's calling out 17-year-olds even remotely? What Nick's doing is that he's calling out the current model of college football. We can argue about Nick's choice of words in the sense of buying players. It's a little bit demeaning. It's offensive. It could be taken as offensive to some of the players and to some of the recruiting staff, because you can basically take that and insinuate that, oh, so we're not talented in recruiting. We can't get them to come to Texas A&M, so we just got to shovel a bunch of money in their face. That could have been the angle that Jimbo took, but instead, that's just not what he responded to at all. He said that Nick Saban accused them of cheating and buying players and breaking state laws, and that caught. And instead, he also called Nick Saban several times throughout the press conference despicable. He said that they're done. He called him a narcissist and insinuated that there may have been some sort of cheating in the past. Even though he was asked later if he's calling Nick Saban a cheater, he said no, whatever. He said that he did say that there's some skeletons in the closet and that he's not a perfect human being. And look, I think we all kind of know that about both these guys. But my major point here is just based off Jimbo's quote, saying that we didn't break any state laws, we didn't buy any players. That's all, like, paying players is legal now. This goes back to February when Jimbo Fisher was accused, in a sense, by Lane Kiffin, where Lane Kiffin said Texas A&M was going to have to implement some sort of luxury tax, and Jimbo Fisher goes out there and says, "Hey, we did everything right. We didn't cheat. We didn't buy anybody." Like, dude, that's like, you can. NIL allows you to pay these guys now. You don't have to act like paying guys is cheating, because it's not anymore. That's just the way college football is. And to go out on this completely insane rant calling Nick Saban a narcissist and all these names is just downright inappropriate. And I know Nick Saban's past, in Nick Saban's comments, he's no saint in any of this, but to warrant that response is just completely out of line. And the other thing I think too is Jimbo comes off as insanely childish throughout this whole thing. You can argue that Nick Saban's whining about NIL, sure, but Jimbo Fisher wouldn't even pick up the phone. Like, he's coming off like a complete baby throughout all of this. Like, you spent all this time with him in LSU. To my knowledge, there wasn't a ton of history of them butting heads, other than maybe Nick said something about him. Nick Saban said something about him in private after they beat him last year, but I don't know, nothing was reported on that. We don't know. But to not even pick up the phone call, that's just insane behavior, I think. You have to hear someone out, because I can get on my soapbox and talk about everyone in today's day and age and how everything is ripped out of context. And that's just a whole nother can of worms that I get upset about. But I think for this situation, I think Nick Saban got crucified for essentially insinuating the truth. Because even though it's not widely reported on, they do recruit some of the same players. He may know a little something more about Texas A&M and what they promised these kids, because they're recruiting the same players. And look, that's just complete speculation. I don't want anyone to take that and just run with it. But I think, that's something that does get brought up and maybe has a little bit of warrant to it. But throughout all this, I can't wait for SEC Media Days. I can't wait. Football season can't come here soon enough. This is the SEC, man. That's what I got for you.